found my Dark Knight poster. It was stuffed down the back of some drawers somewhere. They were, it's this sort of holographic type thing. I don't know what the word for it is, but when you move your head, the picture changes. Depending on what you're looking at, and it goes from Batman to the Joker to Two-Face. They were giving them away at Cineworld when the film first came out, and I was working there at the time, and I stole one. So that's where that comes from. Excellent work. But anyway, as you may have seen, I produced a somewhat random video on Monday, which was just me just dicking around with Final Cut, really. Yes, the video I put out was kind of silly and pointless, but it was serving a useful purpose in that I did spend the day figuring out where all the ins and outs of the Final Cut program that I'm not familiar with. That video obviously wasn't displaying that to its full effect. That was just kind of the nonsense ends that I thought I'd stick up on YouTube just for fun. But I now know the program a lot better. It is good. I don't know why I said it with such apprehension. It's very good for doing that sort of thing that I put up. The sort of silly. It's very convenient and very easy to do stuff like that. A lot of the practical elements seem to be lacking. I don't think I'm the first person to say that. Whereas there's a lot of there's a lot of things that were just easier to do in Avid, or more obvious to do in Avid. I guess the way I would describe it is, Avid seems like more of a work tool, whereas Final Cut feels more like a toy. But they both do the job perfectly well, and for what I need, that's all I need, you know. But in addition to that, I was filling out applications and job applications and funding applications and these sorts of things. That kind of got me thinking about the whole process of that. And I've talked in the past about the business versus creativity, which I was discussing when I was talking about the Lego movie, as business as the enemy of creativity. And I do feel that somewhat. It's very easy, I find, because I'm not a business person. As I mean, have to be a business person for work to some degree, but I am not a businessman. I'm not that entrepreneurial, I guess is the word. But speaking as a writer, particularly, or as a filmmaker when doing funding applications, the entire business side of thing can feel like your enemy, and it can be incredibly disheartening, I find. It feels like it's very easy to fail before you've even started. By this I mean, if you can't present your marketing strategy or your budgets and things, all this paperwork stuff, all this accountancy and all this other stuff that really has nothing to do with the creative process of filmmaking or writing at all, really doesn't. But if you can't do it, then you can fall at the first hurdle. And I understand that in the industry it's necessary to be able to do those things. It feels very counterproductive. As I say, it feels like you can fail before anyone's even listened to your idea. You can certainly fail before anyone's even read your script, which as a writer is just makes you feel really depressed. You know, I mean, what's the point? I read a preface once in a book on, I believe it was probably either a how-to book on script writing or like various script writers talking about their accounts of their careers, and the preface was that someone has been in a conversation with 3 publishers or readers of some companies, basically people who read scripts or drafts, like draft novels for a living, to then pass them on to their bosses, who would then look at to publish or make them. And the conversation, he said, basically left him devastated by the end of it, because it was all about how their first job is to find an excuse not to read your work. That's literally all they do. So they have to find any excuse not to read your work. So they don't like the title, or it's too long, or the formatting's slightly off, or it's a bit too wordy, or it's 4 o'clock on a Friday and they want to go home early. They're just looking for any excuse to not even bother to open your hard written piece of whatever and just sort of dump it. No, that's a no. And the guy writing it was obviously a writer, and he was just saying, he left that conversation just, oh my, what, just crushed. And that is the business side of things. It does have that element that you have to jump through a number of hoops unrelated to what you're doing before you can even succeed, and you can fail before your work has even been given a fair test. And that's really depressing. And talking business, as I often have to talk business, is so depressing to a creative person. And I'm sure I'm not alone in this. There are people who are good at it, but there are people who are good at the business side of things and bad at the creative side of things who succeed, and we see it all the time. They can easily succeed because they're good at business, but they're shit all talent to do with them. So, and that's even worse when you know that you can succeed just by being good at the unrelated part. You don't even have to be good at the job. You just have to be good at the ways of getting to the job. And maybe that's true of all fields of life. We're seeing that in movies particularly as business decisions being made rather than creative decisions being made. That's why we've got, why the Fast and Furious franchise went on forever, and why we're probably going to get an Expendables 4, and why the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was made, and why this bizarro sounding Fantastic Four film is being made. Because they're being made as business decisions rather than creative decisions. Why we're constantly getting sequels and remakes and all this other crap, and we hardly ever get anything new, like ever. I've spoken about this before in my one of the 80s when I said the films were better way back when, and they were better way back when, but you have to watch that video to find out why I said that. But yeah, we don't seem to have a lot of creative decisions being made. You could even say that's why Edgar Wright is no longer directing Ant-Man. It wasn't a creative decision. I'd love to see Edgar Wright's Ant-Man, but they had to make a business decision. The problem I have here is that Marvel are kind of, I don't know, there's not the exception that proves the rule, but they are certainly following the business over creative, but they're making it work. I think they're blending it together quite well. They're allowing the creative side to flourish whilst still making very business decisions. And they're making it look like, because they're a business machine here, they cannot, they're making some, everyone says Guardians of the Galaxy was an outside the box idea, but it wasn't really, everyone's invested in the Marvel universe and it looked amazing, everyone loves that sort of genre, was bound to work. Just because it was an outside of the box decision because it was semi-new. It wasn't new, it was a comic, but it was new in this modern age of what we consider new, which sounds bizarre when you say it out loud. But yeah, Marvel are making the business decisions that work creatively, which are unfortunately allowing other people to make business decisions that don't work creatively, thinking that they're copying Marvel when they're not. This is why we're getting a Justice League movie fired out at us rather than careful setting up of the world, rather than doing what Marvel did and carefully expand the world. They're just going to throw Batman and Superman together at us. Again, not saying it won't. I haven't seen it. I haven't gone into the future and seen it, so I don't know that it won't work. I'm just saying that it's a bad decision. So whilst the Marvel movies still work, they are in many ways still part of this problem. And this can make it feel really hard to catch a break because nobody's looking for anything new. I've literally had I don't know if it still is, the head of BBC Drama, or I think it was at the time, say to my face that the BBC does not make new writing by new writers. They don't make new scripts by new writers. Almost those exact words. And my immediate reaction was to go, well, fuck you then. I mean, I didn't say that, obviously, because I was young and naive. But I wanted to say, well, fuck you. Why am I here talking to you? You're not interested in my work. And the idea is that the BBC way it works, BBC Writers Room is good, don't get me wrong, but the way it works is if they like your work, then they deign their blessings upon you and allow you to come write on Doctors, this 2-bit soap opera that I've never even barely even heard of, certainly never watched it, as if that's some sort of reward for being a good writer. It's no wonder nothing new ever gets made if they're purposefully not making new, because they're deliberately not making new stuff, and that baffles me. And the internet is becoming more and more prevalent, and YouTube and things, and they are making new stuff, and I really feel that if TV doesn't pick up the ball, it's gonna it's gonna lose out here. The TV needs to be pissing itself at the concept of original online content. It really does. But yeah, from that was a few years ago, that conversation, admittedly. But it was really quite disheartening and sort of soul crushing. So what does all this mean? I don't really know. It just means something that I had to say out loud. Business decisions being made for non-creative reasons. I feel like, should you be making creative decisions over business decisions? My opinion, yes, but then I'm a creative person. I think that if you have to take the risks and they pay off, I think that they've always worked in the past. All these creative decisions were made in the past and they've all worked. They don't always work, but then these business decisions don't always work. Lots of very stupid business decisions are made in films, and they make terrible movies. Often a terrible movie can make money. I think this is the problem here, is that a business decision, even when a really terrible one, can still make a lot of money in film. And I think the fundamental problem with film is that it can make a lot of money right off the bat, and I really think that the opening box office, which is sort of touted, is the poorest possible way to judge the quality of a film. The opening box office is how many people went to see the film in the first few days, because they're normally released on Fridays. So films often being released on Wednesdays now for some bizarre reason. But yeah, often released on Fridays, and the opening box office is that weekend. But that doesn't prove anything. I mean, all people are going to see the film. They have no idea if they like the film. It doesn't prove the film's good. It doesn't prove the film is deserving of any sort of praise. It just proves that people went to go see it. Isn't even a reflection of whether they liked it or not. It just means they went to go see it. Sight unseen. They have no idea what to expect. They've given their money over before they even know if they wanted to or not, which is the magic of cinema in many ways. But yeah, the opening box office is an incredible a representation of how well the film was marketed, or how where the film was anticipated, not participated, anticipated. And that's all it's a representation of the marketing of the film. That's all it is. There's no way a representation of the quality of the film, but it's spoken about as if it is in some way, and that's stupid. That's terrible business decisions being made. If your film goes on to make lots of money in the coming weeks that it's out, or like every day that it's out, then it's probably a great film because people are going back to seeing it again. I saw The Dark Knight 9 times, but I did work at the cinema at the time, so I was always there. But yeah, nonetheless, I did see it 9 times. I didn't watch it the whole way through every time. I'd often pop in before or after a shift and be like, yeah, I can watch some of that. But yeah, people who keep going to see your film and how long your film runs, that proves you've made a good film that people like. Your opening box office does not prove anything. If anything, it needs to be taken out of the equation, then you see how much the rest of your film made. But that's me talking about stuff that I don't really understand. I don't understand the business side of that world. I'm just speaking as a creative who would like creative things and creative decisions to be made, because it feels like they aren't very often. Which is why I like the internet. Why I watch way more YouTube than I do anything else. Than I do movies or TV. I don't watch any TV really. There's a couple of things I watch, but mostly I watch them online in like catch-up channels and things like that. Yeah, I just don't know where the entertainment industry is going. I mean, speaking as a creative person, if I want my ideas made, and I know that television isn't that interested, well, why am I going to go to you? Why don't I just get some funding and put it together and do it online? And once online sources start funding independent productions, and I don't know why they don't, because independent productions will work for a lot less money than a big production. This is what baffles me about film particularly, is why they spend, millions and millions and millions on a film that is obviously going to be crap, when they could have just spent the same amount of money and funded like 10 tiny little productions, independent productions, and even if one of them turns out to be amazing, the next big thing, then that's profitable. That's brilliant, isn't it? You got another 9 films out of it. That just seems like good business sense to me. Why make one big piece of crap when you can make 10 little things that could be brilliant, or 10 new ideas, and you're finding new people who work for a lot less money? And once online sources start making the independent programming, which they'll realise they can make a lot cheaper than standard programming, then I don't know why on earth I would ever go to television again. Like I said, I don't watch television. I would quite much rather work for independent, even like Google channel starts making its own programming. But I'd happily do that for much less money than TV would pay me. But at the same, I'm making less money than is the norm. But on the other side of things, I'm making money. I mean, I'm not picky here. Well, a little bit, but the industry norm as for pay scale is ludicrous. It's people getting paid stupid money that they just don't need, and I could happily work on minimum wage. If I was getting my creative ideas out there and doing it on minimum wage, I could be more than happy. So I feel like there's a big switch that needs to come there. There's just something that just needs to happen to figure this out, and I don't know what it is. I'm not proposing ideas here. I'm just talking out loud. But that's that little rant. Hopefully, I didn't write this, not written down. It was just me talking at the camera, so hopefully it made sense, and when I cut it together, it will be coherent in some way. I was going to record more videos this morning, but I kind of got caught up in other things, life things, and I didn't. So I will record some more tomorrow, and then I'll put them out then. But yeah, for now, that is it. So thanks for watching. The end.